And anybody who is in leadership or who is a minister at this church has to be a tither. Period. You got to be a tither. You can't lead people if you ain't doing it. And so for about 18 months, Minister Rosemary was like, up and down, up and down. And there comes a time when the grace runs out. So around July, the last Sunday in July, we had our I Love My Church shirts on. I let somebody else close service. I was trying to get to her for like 2 weeks just to talk to her, and I couldn't, but I was trying to let her know that the grace had run out. And I sat next to her, and I said, how you doing, minister? And she started crying and said, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I said, well, how can we fix that? I don't want you to stop serving because I don't want you to drift away from God. What can we do? She said, I'm struggling, and I have all these credit cards, and I want to do it, but if I do it, she said, actually, I tithe today. I said, well, good. She said, halfway. I said, well, bad. Now, you have to know, as a pastor, it ain't easy sitting down talking to a human being who's telling you if I do this, I'm not going to be able to pay my bill. But I have a responsibility not just to minister to the human, I have to minister to the divine inside.
I didn't even have the money to pay the credit cards, and my rent was coming up. So I sat there, and I couldn't go to Peter, Paul, my mom. I couldn't go to any of it because that's how much it was.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, account. John, none of them was available.
No, nobody was going to help me out of this one. I was like, this is going to hurt. I was almost sick when I gave this. I gave it. I got my paycheck. It's the same hours, the same amount of time. It's nothing different. But the check was almost $400 more. I had enough to pay my bills and my rent. I said, okay, well, he gave me this, so I'm going to tithe off of this. I have to tithe off of this. And I look at Isaiah. So I did this. That next day, I got a phone call. It was a $30,000 debt, financial debt. I get a phone call saying they're paying my debt. They're paying all my debt. I'm debt free.
$30,000 erased in a phone call because she decided to give God what belonged to him. If you don't let go of that 10% and let God bless you and give you what belongs to you, tell somebody abundant compensation.
I gave 3 digits. God gave me back 6 digits. $100,000.
She gave her $180 tithe. She got a call 8 days later, and she received $100,000 from. Hey, abundant compensation. If you are ready for some debt breaking in your life, you ought to be standing on your feet, lifting up your hands, and glorifying God Almighty right now. I have never taken the time to learn about the principle of tithing until the end of last year, when I came to the point that I had to understand why I should give and give consistently. I made a commitment to God that I will make a 100% effort not to miss a month. And with that being asked, him to give me strength and insight. Some months are easier than others. My commitment was to write the first check before I paid anything else. Tell somebody, do it first. Say, bless God first. Say, you got to bless God first. Say, you got to seek God first. I began to see all the things that need to come out of my budget and really see creative ways of saving and management, which started creating room in my finances and therefore relieved the stress associated with it. You remember we shared a testimony about the lady who was fighting cancer? Her brother worked for Chase Bank. Watch this. She was fighting about 7 to 10 different cancers at once. Greetings to each and every one of you today. The morning of Tuesday, July the 10th, there was a 2-hour meeting regarding Mrs. Marin's latest blood work and labs. Myself, along with 31 other medical professionals, have looked and studied the results over and over. They said, we found no trace of cancer cells. Medical professionals. We found no trace of cancer cells in her leg muscles and bones. We have no answer as to how this occurred, yet those of us that believe in his grace know that it was all in his miraculous doing. I personally know that the faith and admiration that Mrs. Marin has in God, and know how much she blindly placed her life in his hands. This is the doctor talking. She says, I have shared how Mrs. Marin and her miracles have converted me into a believer, and I'm gracious for that.